Welcome to Varsity Nutrition. I'm Derek Marks, and in this episode, we're going to talk about routines and meal planning. The goal here is to help you develop a personal meal plan and routine to optimize performance and recovery. This is easily the essence of Varsity Nutrition. We don't tell you exactly what to eat and exactly when to eat it because all of you have different needs, different training schedules, different resources, all of that. So what we really aim to do here is to help you develop a routine, something that you can rely on that fits your schedule and your needs best. And so all that starts with planning ahead and thinking about food and when you're going to eat and what you're going to eat ahead of time, not ever getting caught off guard. So the objectives for today's talk, we're going to talk about the value of nutritional routines, get into some meal planning basics, also talk about meal timing and different scenarios, whether you're a morning trainer, afternoon trainer, doing 2-a-days, etc. And then we'll just sort of finish with where to start with all this. So dietary routines have their most value when they're consistent, and that term consistent and routine, they kind of go together, right? So athletes with routines are able to consistently deliver adequate energy, adequate nutrients to support their training, recovery, and adaptation. Those without routines, and I've seen this over the years, who just sort of haphazardly eat when they want to, when they have food available, but they're not really thinking ahead, end up depriving themselves at times where they need nutrients the most. And so when you develop this routine and an idea of, yep, this is exactly my structure for eating, treat it like you do training, treat it like you do your classes, put food on your schedule, and the outcome tends to be really, really good in terms of performance and adaptation. When we start to look at developing routines, there's three primary areas to start with. First is timing. When are you going to eat your meals? When are you going to eat your snacks? That usually revolves around when your training schedule is and sometimes when your class schedule is, depending on your situation. Second area is going to be frequency. How many meals a day are you going to eat? How many times are you going to have snacks? And that, again, depends on some of your responsibilities. And then finally, what's the composition? What is your macronutrient breakdown? How much protein, how much carbohydrate do you want to be eating? How much energy do you want to be eating on a given day? All those three factors should go into developing the best routine for you. So some basics. When you start to think about planning meals and making sure that they're adequate for you, I always work with athletes and tell them to start with protein. Protein is by far the hardest nutrient I've witnessed for athletes to consume in adequate amounts. And so if you can get in the habit of starting all of your meals with a quality protein source and building your meal around it, that tends to lead to the best outcomes in terms of protein intake and also minimizes the reliance on protein supplements and other shortcuts to get nutrients that you could have otherwise gotten in food. So protein first, always. Once you have that protein selected for your meals and even for your snacks, really, but for your meal, got your protein selected, what do you do next? Fill the plate. Add the vegetables or add the fruits, whatever you're going to do that day. I tend to not mix them together, but some people like to mix vegetables and fruits, whatever you like. Fill your plate with fresh fruits and veggies, and then finish it off with quality carbohydrates. And so you'll have a plate that has your quality protein, a selection of fruits and veggies, and then some quality carbohydrates. That usually lets you fall right into that macronutrient balance zone with whatever tweaks you need that you're after. The fourth recommendation here is to take control. And so this is about you making sure you know what you're eating. So if you can cook the food for yourself, if you buy the food and cook it for yourself, that's always preferred over having somebody else cook it for you, or just buying packaged things from 7-Eleven or whatever that might be. So and then finally, to make sure that you're doing a good job, you have to track your intake. You need to know if you're meeting your targets and meeting your goals. You could think you have the perfect routine, but then you do a little analysis and understand either you're spot on or you might be way off. A recommendation, right? And so thankfully in this world, we have all these great digital calendars and planners and all that kind of stuff. Whatever you use to schedule your life, add food to that schedule, right? So if it's something like this, maybe it's on paper or maybe it's digital, you surely have your class schedule, your training schedule probably a work schedule, right? Other things are on your daily planner where someone asks you if you're available. You're like, let me check. Put food on there as well, right? It's obviously there's flexibility all over the place, but if you write food into your daily schedule, your weekly schedule in this case, you are much more likely to follow that schedule and therefore develop a solid routine. So I always give one of these blank sheets to my athletes saying, hey, if you're challenged right now with developing routine, let's start with this. If we want to get into a little bit more specifics, and I have 4 different scenarios here in terms of training schedule, no class schedule, nothing else on there. But if you were to be filling out your daily food schedule, this is sort of something that I'd like to start with just as an idea. It's not perfect. If we look at the far left column, and on the second column to the left, the far left column is just time of day, starting at 7 a.m., ending at 9 p.m. But if we look at that next column that's now circled in red, if you are a morning training type of athlete, and some of you might be, a daily sort of meal planning schedule might look something like this, right? You have your pre-training snack, you have your training in yellow in those 2 bars there, post-training recovery plus breakfast, hopefully within that hour after training, lunch, snack, dinner, late night snack, right? So it's a pretty obvious, hopefully, routine, but something that needs to be written down and something that needs to be followed. For you afternoon trainers, which in the college and high school environment, this is probably the most common training scenario. Don't have anything until after class, sort of mid to late afternoon. In this case, it looks like a 4 to 6 training session. Take your time, have a nice breakfast, have a mid-morning snack. So between breakfast and lunch, plan a snack. Something that you can eat during class or between classes. Have a good lunch, pre-training snack, training, post-training dinner, and post-training recovery, and then dinner, and then a late night snack. On 2-a-days, it's the same procedure, right? You want to always start a training session with a good pre-training snack, follow with post-training recovery, throw your 3 meals in on the day, which again, in this case, are all the same time. It's doable. Follow the routine. Develop the one that works best for you. Even on off days, I try and encourage athletes to even think about food then. It's a lot less pressure because there isn't training to deal with, so you have more time to eat, more time to prep food. But still, sometimes people forget. So even on your off days, write down when you think you should be eating and try and follow that. So where should you start? It's a lot, right? And this isn't a process that happens overnight, and it is something like sport. It takes practice. You're not the best athlete after one session. You got to stick with it, and you got to work on it until you refine your skill set. In this case, the skill set is developing your eating routine or your meal plan. So firstly, I always start with goals. Know what your goals are for intake. Know how many calories you should be eating. Know how much protein you're aiming for, how much carbohydrates. Use Chronometer to do that. Chronometer on your profile. There's tutorials on Varsity Nutrition that show you how to do it. I believe that is Dietary Analysis 101. Go to Dietary Analysis 101 and it will set you up on how to understand what your goals are for you, right? For your sport, for your activity, for your demographics. That's where you should start. Secondly, do that weekly schedule exercise. Get your planner out and put in, hey, I have a 2-a-day training session on this day. This is when I should be eating and having snacks. Follow that weekly or fill out that weekly schedule so you are best prepared and in the mindset of looking ahead going, yep, this is what I need to be getting ready for in terms of food. Third one here is, and I didn't talk about this much earlier, but make grocery shopping a priority. For those of you that grocery shop, some of you might be solely at campus dining, or maybe you are at home and don't have to worry about grocery shopping. But for those of you feeding yourselves, please include an hour or so to grocery shop every week on your planner. It's one of the things that surprises me, but it's a real thing. Yeah, you're busy. You are student athletes who have class, you have training, you have jobs, you have life. When is there time to grocery shop? So prioritize grocery shopping so you can be ensured that you have the food at home that you need to cook. You could have the best meal plan ever, but if the food's not in your house, you don't have anything to eat. So make that a priority. Also work on grocery lists. And so you are consistently buying the foods that you need and the foods that you'll eat. And then finally, plan ahead, right? And in that weekly or daily routine of planning out when you're going to have your meals and your snacks, don't get caught off guard. Like, you need to take care of yourself. So packing foods that travel well. Hey, I have, sports bars in my bag. I even have a couple pieces of fruit just in case. Bring some food that travels well and always have it with you just in case. Some athletes like to cook big, casseroles or other things that, save well over the weekend. And then every day they bring a portion of that to school for lunch or for whatever meal they want to have. And that's a really good way to plan ahead. It works for some, doesn't work for others. But planning ahead and thinking ahead about food will lead to much better outcomes. Thank you.